The story begins in Ukraine, 2016, where we find Boyka sitting alone, lost deep in his thoughts. His voice is filled with guilt and faith as he admits, "I have sinned against both men and God." For 10 years he's lived in darkness, waiting, questioning what life even means anymore. Yet even in that torment, he still dares to dream. Meanwhile, Boyka's fame as a fighter has grown. He's donating money to rebuild a local church, trying to find redemption through good deeds. But when the priest reminds him that violence is not the path to salvation, Boyka defends himself. He calls it a sport, something with rules, something God might have even gifted him. Still, the priest warns him. Violence has a way of consuming men. Not long after, Boyka's manager rushes in with big news: there's finally a real fight, a legitimate tournament in Budapest. Scouts are coming to watch him in his next underground match, and if he impresses them, he'll finally get his chance to go pro. The night of the fight arrives. The atmosphere is electric, the crowd chanting his name. Boyka! 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 He steps into the ring, calm but deadly, while his opponent stares across from him, desperate and hungry. The referee goes over the rules, and then, the bell rings. Boyka wins again, dominant, confident, unstoppable. But then, everything changes. Moments after the fight, chaos breaks out. His opponent isn't moving. Doctors rush in, and the cheers fade to silence. Later, Boyka learns the man's name. Victor, and the news hits like a hammer. Victor is dead. That one word, dead, destroys everything Boyka thought he stood for. He can't stop hearing the priest's voice asking, "Do you think God approves of what you do?" And now, that question haunts him. Boyka tracks down Victor's belongings, an old bag, a few personal items, and a fake passport. He learns Victor was from Russia, from a small town called Drovny, and that he had a wife. That discovery breaks something inside him. The man he killed wasn't just an opponent. He was a husband. Since that moment, Boyka makes a decision: he must find Victor's wife and make things right. Even if it means risking everything. He takes Victor's passport and sets out for Russia, though his manager warns him it's suicide. Boyka is a wanted man there, but he doesn't care. "It's not this life I'm worried about," he says, and with that, he crosses the border in secret, using a small van through a forgotten military checkpoint. Meanwhile, in Russia, Victor's widow struggles to survive. Her husband's death has left her alone and in debt to a ruthless crime boss. Boyka arrives quietly, trying to speak with her, but he's met with hostility and suspicion. Still, he doesn't give up. He watches from the shadows, learns about her situation, and realizes the only way to help her is through the one thing he knows best: fighting. Therefore, Boyka enters the local underground ring again, this time, not for fame, not for glory, but to free her from the grip of that criminal. Each fight he takes brings him closer to paying off her debts, and each match becomes a brutal reminder of what violence costs him. The fights in Russia are raw, personal, and emotional. Boyka faces powerful opponents who test his strength, his endurance, and his will to stay true to his purpose. He fights like a man possessed, fueled not by pride but by guilt and redemption. The camera lingers on his pain between rounds, the exhaustion, the blood, the quiet prayers whispered under his breath. Through these battles, Boyka starts to change. While he began fighting for himself, now he's fighting for someone else's freedom. The once cold, emotionless fighter becomes a man carrying faith and responsibility. Eventually, Boyka earns enough to pay off Victor's widow's debts. When she learns what he's done, she finally understands: this man came not to boast, but to atone. There's forgiveness in her eyes, and for the first time, Boyka finds peace, not in victory, but in humility. And while the world still sees him as a criminal, deep down, he knows he's found his redemption. Because in the end, Boyka fights not to prove he's the most complete fighter in the world, but to prove he's still human. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.